Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Liz and this is Let's Get Lizical, where we do everything card making. Today we're going to be making a card that has a classic pop-up on the inside. We're just going to start off by working on the front first, and this card could definitely, be left as is once the front is done. But I decided to just add a bit of a little scene on the inside with these penguins and a tree. I definitely could have added more to it, but I did not end up doing that because I'm lazy sometimes and I like my cards simple. I think if I was to do this again, I might add a little bit more to the inside, but this card did take me quite a long time to do as well. So I think it took 48 minutes from the timestamp. So yeah, it just took a while. But what I'm doing right now is I'm using Mama Elephant's quilted background die just to add a little bit of texture and interest to the front of the card. I'm also going to be adding a panel of my buffalo check print, which is available on my website. Again, $2. It's a transparent PNG that just prints the black, so you can print it on any cardstock that your printer allows for. I just use a Michael's Recollections 65-pound cardstock. And it prints fine in my printer, but again, test your printer before you purchase just in case it doesn't work, but it should be okay because it's a fairly lightweight cardstock if you're using, like I said, the Michael's Recollection 65-pound. And you can always put the paper back into your printer and print one scale on one side and the bigger scale on the other side, and then you have options going forward, but you can also just, print it the same on both sides. Or whatever, whatever floats your boat. But I love this print, and then just set it to a slower print setting just so it doesn't end up looking a little bit streaky. I ended up on my printer using a matte paper presentation setting that just printed it a bit slower, and I didn't have any issues with that, so that's probably what I'll use for this going forward. And now I have all the buffalo check pattern in the world that I need for my holiday cards, because I do have a stamp for it, but it doesn't always stamp cleanly, and if I wanted to do it on a bias, you're obviously losing that real estate. So printing a full 8.5 by 11 sheet instead of a little 6 by 6 square helps out for sure. And then you can use a little bit more of it. So right now what I'm doing is using the Lawn Fawn's Noble Fur cardstock. I think it's 80-pound. And I'm going to be stamping the sentiment on it with some clear embossing ink and heat embossing that with white. And I'm just using this laminate sheet that I got from Simon with a grid on it just to help line it up. You can print your own if you have a laser printer, or if you have access to a laser printer, you just need an acetate sheet. And I think the transparency sheets, the plain ones, should work fine. The ones that you use for old overhead projectors, because that's what they were meant for. They were meant to be printed on that type. So I might give it a try at some point. I do have access to a laser printer, so I might again give it a try and try to print my own, maybe a larger one, because I do have the one that's 4 1/4 by 5.5, which is great. And it works good, but it might be nice to have a larger one as well. But right now I'm also using the Noble Fur ink around the edges of this after I rounded the corners, because I thought it would just look a little bit nicer and cleaner. And again, this is the ink that coordinates with this cardstock, so I am putting it on pretty heavily just so it gives a little bit of a vignette around the sentiment. And there you can see on the back that this is the one that I messed up before, because I just tried double stamping it, but when you stamp it and then heat emboss it, it kind of warps the paper, so sometimes it doesn't line up exactly with the sentiment again. So it got a little messy, and I just decided to flip it over and just do it once. And then I'm gonna add it on some foam tape again, just to add a little bit of interest to the front of the card. And then I'll just set this off to the side while I work on the inside components, which will be 2 of the penguins and a Christmas tree, and then we will create our classic pop-ups. You could cut into the card base and make them that way. I've seen it done. I think it's easier just to add in the tabs for it, and you'll see me do that after I stamp color and then cut these out. So for now, I'm just gonna play music while you guys watch me color, and then I will come back once that's done. Okay, so now that that's done, we're going to restamp our images as always, and then we'll take this over to my scan and cut and cut them out, which I'll obviously cut out because you're not going to see me do it. And that's the beauty of editing. Look, all done. You guys didn't have to suffer through that like I did. No, I'm just kidding. I love my scan and cut, and it does a great job. But now I'm just adding on the highlights and details to these penguins with my white Uniball pen, which I absolutely love. This is my favorite pen now for any kind of highlights. It never has an issue so far, fingers crossed. But yeah, this is my new favorite pen. And then I'm just using my Stardust Jelly Roll for adding a little bit of glitter to the ornaments on the tree, as well as the ribbon on the present. And then we're going to work on the mechanism for our pop-up. I messed it up the first time, which I'm leaving in here for now, just so that you can see that it's easy to mess this up. But basically I was going to try to make it into a rectangle, but I didn't think it through clearly, and I ended up making a triangle, which you'll see in a minute. And I am going to redo it, so don't learn from this first part, but I'll explain it when I get to the next one. But right now I'm, scoring my pieces. I think it was 3 1/4, but I ended up cutting out that last quarter. But what I did wrong here was I did like a 1/2 inch, and then I think I did a 1 1/2, and then I did a 2 1/2, and then I was going to cut it at 3, because you should have a short then long and then a short then long, and not a short and then long long short, if that makes sense. You'll see here what happens when you do short long long short. So yeah, you end up with like a little triangle piece, which is fine if you want to pop it up and leave it laying open. Maybe you want it to lean back a bit, I don't know. But I realized what my mistake was after, and I ended up just going with squares. Squares are always easy to do pop-ups for. All the sides are the same. There's no issue with it. So I moved on, and I think I did 1/2 inch for the tree, or it's 3/4. It might have been 3/4. So if you're doing 3/4, you want a 3 inch piece, you're going to score it 3/4, 1 1/2, 2 1/4, and then you cut at your 3, and that's fine. So this will give you a 3/4 inch tree. And then for the penguins, I wanted them to come out a little bit further. So I ended up with a 4 inch piece that I scored at 1, 2, and 3. So that gives you your 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. And then you just have a slightly larger square, and it just again helps add even more dimension, because I wanted the penguins to be able to overlap the tree and give it a little bit more depth. So you'll see that here in a second. I'm just folding my pieces here, and then I can add glue to the 2 ends and then just sandwich it in there. I'm just eyeballing this. I didn't measure anything out. I probably should have laid them out on the inside of the card and then kind of made marks where I wanted them to go, because I do find that this is a little bit more towards the left side. But again, I'm not too picky, guys. It looks fine to me, so I'm just gonna leave it. And then once that's done, I'm gonna add just 3 dots in the, I think it's ruby pops of color, which is almost a translucent red glitter. It is a bit see-through, but I just thought it would just add a little bit of sparkle to the front of the card as well. And you still have room to write a sentiment and sign it and whatever on the inside. You could do it at the top, you could do it at the bottom. You again could build up an entire scene on that back panel, which maybe I'll do in the future. I'll just do a little bit more of a detailed pop-up card for you guys in the new year. But that's pretty much it for today, guys. Thanks again for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I'd love to have you here. And until next time, thanks guys. Bye.